Good morning, everyone. At this time, I'll call the regular Crow Wing County Board of Commissioners meeting to order for 2029-2020. If you'll join me in the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Therese, if you would call the roll call, please.
Commissioner Brecken?
Here.
Commissioner Hoag?
Here.
Commissioner Franzine?
Here.
Commissioner Coring?
Here.
Commissioner Brecken, or Barrows? Sorry.
Thank you. I'm here.
Everyone's present.
At this time, if there's anyone out there that would like to address the board for an item that is not on the current agenda. Anyone out there that would like to speak to something not on our agenda? Hearing none, we'll move on. We would look for a motion to approve the minutes of the December 15th, 2020 regular county board meeting.
Also move.
Commissioner Brecken makes the motion.
Second.
Commissioner Franzine seconds the motion. Therese, if you would call the roll call, please.
Commissioner Brecken?
Aye.
Commissioner Hoag?
Aye.
Commissioner Franzine?
Aye.
Commissioner Coring?
Aye.
Commissioner Barrows?
Chair votes aye, motion passes. Review and approve the agenda for today. We look for a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Hoag, second by Commissioner Franzine. Again, Therese, if you would call the roll call.
Commissioner Hoag?
Aye.
Commissioner Franzine?
Aye.
Commissioner Coring?
Aye.
Commissioner Brecken?
Aye.
Commissioner Barrows?
Chair votes aye, motion passes. Number 5 on our agenda today is the consent agenda. Any questions concerning that? Commissioner Hoag.
Just one, I think there was a renewal for some legal fees. I think it was Scott Anderson's contract. Did that number change at all over the last few years? I'm just curious. It just shows the new amount, but
Administrator Houle.
Commissioner Hoag, I don't have that information right at my disposal. I was wondering if Gary may, if there is any change in the contract rate. I'm not aware that there is one, but I couldn't verify that for you. Gary, can you help us?
Sure. Since good morning, Commissioners and Mr. Chair, Commissioner Hoag, the contract is through our attorney's office. If you could share with me what the rate is in front of you. I know what it was last year. I did not do the budgeting for it as our county attorney does. I believe last year it was $10,000 for the contract.
I thought
This goes per
was this
hour.
20-some thousand?
This is $20,000 contract, and so maybe, is it in the board minutes, Trace, that we could, is tied up in court this morning. He will be available, and what we could do is pull this from the consent agenda in order to get your question answered, and then move it forward. In the meantime, Teresa, if you could see if we could find last year's.
Yep, it'll take me a minute, so.
So why don't we just pull it and put it under my report?
Like
I'd be good with that if.
5.13,
Yeah.
pull that off.
Is it 13 or, yeah. Yep.
Any other questions on any of the other items on the consent agenda? Hearing none, I would look for a motion to pass the consent agenda minus number 5.13.
Motion to approve.
Commissioner Franzine makes the motion to approve.
I'll second.
Commissioner Brecken seconds the motion. Therese, if you would call the roll call, please.
Commissioner Franzine?
Aye.
Commissioner Coring?
Aye.
Commissioner Brecken?
Aye.
Commissioner Hoag?
Aye.
Commissioner Barrows?
Chair votes aye, motion passes. And we are at 9:05. So I would look for a motion to open a public hearing regarding the 2021 harvest plan.
So moved.
So
Commissioner
moved.
Franzine makes the motion.
Second.
Commissioner Coring seconds the motion. Therese, would you call the roll call, please?
Commissioner Coring,
Aye.
Commissioner Brecken,
Aye.
Commissioner Hogg,
Aye.
Commissioner Franzine,
Aye.
Commissioner Barrows.
Chair votes aye, motion passes. Mr. Simonson, you are going to present this?
Yes, good morning, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. Pretty short and sweet on this one. Every year before we finalize our harvest plan for the timber harvesting on the 105,000 acres of county-managed lands, we seek approval from the Natural Resource Advisory Committee, and then finally from the county board after a public hearing. And so that's where we are today. The Natural Resource Advisory Committee has approved the harvest plan, and the acres essentially stay the same year over year. We determine the acres from a forest modeling data using our forest inventory, and as we go over or under slightly on each of the acreage goals, we just adjust for the next year. So essentially the harvest plan is about 1,400 acres per year, and then we adjust up or down if we go up or down slightly, because a lot of these forest stands that we're harvesting, it's hard to get it exact. Sometimes you have a 10-acre stand or a 20, 30-acre stand or timber sale, and so we get it pretty close, and that's about that.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone on the phone or the Teams meeting that would like to speak to this harvest plan? Is there anyone from the public that would like to address the 2021 harvest plan? Third and final call for anyone from the public to address the 2021 harvest plan for Crow Wing County.
Motion to close the public hearing.
Motion by Commissioner Coring to close the public hearing.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Franzine. Therese, if you would give the roll call, please.
Commissioner Brecken,
Aye.
Commissioner Hogg,
Aye.
Commissioner Franzine,
Aye.
Commissioner Coring,
Aye.
Commissioner Barrows.
Chair votes aye. Motion to close is passed at 9:07 a.m. I would look for a motion to approve the 2021 harvest plan.
I'll make that motion.
Commissioner Franzine makes the motion.
I'll second.
Commissioner Brecken seconds the motion. Therese, if you would give the roll call again, please.
Commissioner Hogg,
Aye.
Commissioner Franzine,
Aye.
Commissioner Coring,
Aye.
Commissioner Brecken,
Aye.
Commissioner Barrows.
Chair votes aye, motion passes. Item 7.1, Eagle Property Management LLC, Land Use Map Amendment. Mr. Griffin, are you handling that, or is Mr. Fry? Free, I'm sorry.
Right.
All right. Well, thank you, Mr. Chair, and members of the board. Good morning. Our applicant this morning is Eagle Property Management LLC. For the parcel numbers, and I'll read them off: 761-80612, 761-0610, and 761-80504, located along County Road 23 in Brainerd, and that's Maple Grove Township. The request here is to approve, table, or deny a request to amend the official land use map for those parcels I just described, from Shoreland District with Rural Residential 5 to Waterfront Commercial, involving approximately 36.15 acres. A little background on this particular project, and I know this material is in the board packet as well, but again, there's 3 parcels to be considered here for this zoning change, 2 of which are on the east side of County Road 23, which is on what we call the upper South Long Lake side of the road. Those are vacant parcels owned by the Youngs, or Eagle Management, and they're proposing again to make those waterfront commercial. And then there is a parcel on the west side of County Road 23, or on the South Long Lake and Nokasippi River side proposing to make that waterfront commercial. Zoning to the west of these proposed parcels is commercial 2, immediately to the west, and then to the northwest of that, rural residential 10. Zoning to the south and southeast is shoreline district, and zoning to the northeast shoreline district, and to the northwest a little bit more rural residential 5 in that area. As part of this application, it was December 17th, 2020 that the Planning Commission unanimously recommended the change of the zoning to waterfront commercial, and all board members being present at that meeting. Part of that request was also for a conditional use permit, which for a commercial storage yard involving 2.14 acres on the 2 parcels on the east side of County Road 23. That was approved by the Board of Adjustments. That decision, of course, stands with that board. Again, this request just for the zoning change. Just some other pieces of information here. We've had a significant amount of comments for this particular item, both when we uploaded it to the first time to the web for folks to see about a week before the meeting, and after and right before the meeting. In total, to date, just looking at my summary here, we've had about 80 written public comments received. And I know in the last 48 hours, even 12 hours, very recently, we've had some additional comments. So, Mr. Chair and members of the board, hopefully you've had a chance to see those pretty recent comments. We always try to provide them as soon as possible to everyone, so they've had a chance to really reflect on those and read them. So I know
Mr. Chair, can I ask a question on that?
Commissioner Coring.
Mr. Free, I noticed in reading through all the comments that there were people that had written 2 or 3 letters. So when you say the 80 comments, are you counting if somebody writes in, if they wrote 3 letters in, or you know what I mean? There are some people that wrote, I think, several times.
Yeah, so we've, Mr. Chair and Commissioner Coring, we've attempted to capture, even if an individual were to write a comment quite early on in the process, and in fact, on this particular application, even after the development review team meeting, even before there was an official application, we were starting to receive some letters and comments about this proposal. So if we received some early on and some late, some of the content may have changed slightly. We tended to include those as separate comments, even though maybe the same person had the same gist, if that's helpful to clarify.
Thank you.
And then just finishing up on what I was going to say, of those 80 written received, we've characterized about 36 in favor, 41 against, and 3 neutral. Again, we've attempted to characterize those as best we could. At that December 17th Planning Commission meeting, we did have 10 people speak in opposition to the proposal, generally speaking. So there was some comments there. We have received comments from the County Highway Department, and they have, they're not, they just provided some perspective on that they generally don't have any opposition to it, but that no new accesses can be created, and that they just basically told the applicant that if there's any change in use, that they might take a look at a turn lane someday, and that they should just work with the highway department. The Minnesota DNR has not weighed in on this officially as a written comment. We have had Upper South Long Lake. I believe the LID has provided official comments, not in support of this change in zoning. The township has not officially provided their perspective as a group. With that, I'll take any questions. Otherwise, we'll be looking for a motion on this one. Thank you.
Is there anyone out there that would like to speak to this subject? Anyone from the public that would like to speak to this subject? Hearing none, are there any questions from the commissioners for Jake? With that, and hearing none, I would look for a motion to approve the petition of Eagle Property Management LLC to amend the official land use map for parcels 761-80612, 761-80610, 761-80504, based on the findings of fact on file in the Land Services Department.
Make that motion.
Commissioner Franzine makes the motion.
I'll second.
Commissioner Hoag seconds the motion. Therese, if you would call the roll call, please.
Commissioner Franzine?
Aye.
Commissioner Coring?
Aye.
Commissioner Brecken?
Aye.
Commissioner Hoag?
Aye.
Commissioner Barrows?
Chair votes aye, motion passes. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Jake.
Thank you.
7.2, the recycling services bids. Mr. Simonson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. As you know, over the last couple of years, we've been working to improve our recycling services, and part of that operation is that we just sent out a request for proposals to all of our license haulers to provide recycling services to the landfill site and the Ideal Township Transfer Station for 2021. And one of the main pieces of the proposal was that we were seeking a fixed collection fee, a fixed monthly fee that was not subject to change. And we received 2 bids, one from Waste Partners, one from Waste Management. The bid from Waste Partners was just over $8,500 per month, and they provided a fixed fee. So they kind of followed the RFP. Waste Management, on the other hand, did not provide a fixed fee, and so their bid is subject to change. And for example, based on volume, so the Crow Wing Township recycling drop-off site is closing in just a few days here. And so if that site closes and then a bunch of that volume comes to the landfill and our volume increases, Waste Management's bid is subject to those increases and can go up or down. And part of the reason we wanted a fixed fee, if you remember, is we had a bunch of requests in the middle of the year for increased recycling funding because costs were going up. And so that was part of the reason we did this RFP was just to get one fixed fee. And so I guess our recommendation is to accept the bid from Waste Partners, which is a fixed fee. And I guess that's all I have. I'd like to take any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Simonson. Any questions from the board?
Mr. Chairman?
Commissioner Coring, go ahead.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, a question. So the Crow Wing Township site will be closing then?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Coring, that's correct. I think they're removing the containers on December 31st.
Any feedback from the town board? I did hear from a couple of my constituents who were not obviously happy that the recycling location was going away, but I explained it to them about contamination, and I kind of explained the whole thing, and they kind of understood. They understood, but they didn't particularly like it. But you know, it's the old rule that one person ruins it for everybody else. So you know, I think if they really want to recycle, they can go up and save up and go up once a month, I guess, up to the landfill.
Yeah, exactly. And with the landfill site and the Ideal Township site being spread out, you know, kind of in the southern part of the county and the northern part of the county, we think those are 2 good locations for folks to save up their recyclables and make a run every week or 2 or 3, depending on how much they have. Yep. So, didn't really hear much negative feedback from Crow Wing Township specific folks. That yep.
Any other questions?
Mr. Chair, maybe just a quick comment, but Ryan, this will be the first year, I think, in several that we've actually got fixed costs for recycling. and not a bunch of mid-year requests for additional dollars and stuff. So, you know, as we go into 2021, it should be able to paint a fairly clear picture of the true cost of recycling in the county. But also this does too give cities, townships the opportunity to join in as long as they're willing to put some money forward. So, you know, I'm looking forward to really seeing what the cost of recycling is going to look like for us after we crunch the numbers for 2021. So I appreciate the work that you've put into this, and we'll see where it goes.
Any other questions, comments?
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Coring, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I want to echo Commissioner Hoag's comments, and I want to thank Gary and Ryan and the staff for working on this. And you know, for the public's benefit, you know, the reason why this happened is recycling has changed, and we have to change with it. We were projecting out that we were going to run out of money for this program. And so this is the only way that we could rein it in without raising the solid waste fee or raising taxes on everybody. This is the way that we found that would be economical to still provide recycling services in Crow Wing County. And I appreciate the staff's work on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Coring. If there are no other questions or comments, I would look for a motion to accept the bid from Waste Partners Incorporated for the recycling program.
I'll make that motion.
Commissioner Hoag makes the motion,
I'll second.
second by Commissioner Coring. Therese, if you would call the roll call, please.
Commissioner Coring,
Aye.
Commissioner Brecken,
Aye.
Commissioner Hoag,
Aye.
Commissioner Franzine,
Aye.
Commissioner Barrows.
Chair votes aye, motion passes. At this time, I would thank you, Ryan, for everything that you've done, and Gary, and I also appreciate the two commissioners that sit on the waste program, Commissioner Coring and Commissioner Hoag, for the work that they've done in trying to resolve this problem. At this time, I would look for a motion to open a public hearing for the 2021 fee schedules.
Motion to open.
Commissioner Franzine makes the motion to open a public hearing.
I'll second.
Commissioner Brecken seconds that motion. Therese, if you would call the roll call, please.
Commissioner Brecken,
Aye.
Commissioner Hoag,
Aye.
Commissioner Franzine,
Aye.
Commissioner Coring,
Aye.
Commissioner Barrows.
Chair votes aye. The public hearing opens at 9:23. And at this time, Mr. Mielke, you will present this.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. Before you today is a request to approve the 2021 fee schedule for the county. This was reviewed at Budget Committee and recommended for approval. In your packet, there is a summary of changes. I should add that this year was our year of full in-depth analysis, so staff did do a full in-depth review of the fee schedule, including what our costs are to deliver the programs or the permits, and ensuring that the costs for the fee schedule are in line with our actual internal costs to deliver. The summary of proposed changes: financial services, there's an increase to commercial pesticide applicator proctor fee. We're going to increase that by $15 to $119. It is taking us approximately 2 hours to administer that particular test, and our costs have exceeded what our fee schedule has been. There is a portion of this that does go to the state. A little over half of it goes to the state. The remainder stays with us to offset our cost to Proctor. Land services, in the recording fees section, we are updating the per month subscription fee title to no longer include Landshark, as that software is no longer used. We are also changing day use to 24-hour access to make it a little more clear that as a 24-hour period, you have access to that. There's also the certificate of title fee for $2 that is being requested to be removed. In environmental services, They are requesting to adjust the short-term rental license fee from $300 per property to a tier fee schedule based on the bedrooms in the short-term rental. In solid waste, we are looking to remove the fees that are tiered for the size of mattress and bed spring to a one base fee, whether it's a mattress or it's a bed spring, no matter the size. In Information Services GIS fee schedule, there are no changes proposed there. Sheriff Office has no changes proposed, and Community Services is looking to add a instant field urine analysis fee. They're doing more analysis out in the field, so they're looking to charge a fee for that. And then finally, Highway has no recommended changes at this time.
Anyone from the public that would like to speak to these fee changes? Anyone from the public that would like to speak to these fee changes? Third and final call for anyone to address the fee changes for 2021.
Mr. Chairman, I move to close the public hearing.
Commissioner Coring moves to close the public hearing.
Second.
Commissioner Franzine seconds that motion. Therese, if you would call the roll call, please.
Commissioner Hoag,
Aye.
Commissioner Franzine,
Aye.
Commissioner Coring,
Aye.
Commissioner Brecken,
Aye.
Commissioner Barrows.
Chair votes aye. Public hearing is closed at 9:26 a.m. At this time, I would look for a motion to approve the 2021 fee schedule and policies.
I'll make that motion.
Commissioner Franzine makes the motion.
I'll second.
Commissioner Brecken makes the second to approve. Therese, if you would call the
Mr.
roll
Chair,
call.
can I ask a question before we vote on that?
Yes, Commissioner Coring.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So just on the vacation rentals, I thought it always was a tiered system, or am I wrong? I thought it was based on the bedrooms at the beginning.
Mr. Melky?
I'd defer that to Mr. Griffin if he could answer that one.
Sure. Mr. Chair, Commissioner Coring, the original fee that was discussed was going to be $300 per property regardless of size. And so this had been discussed way early in, or late in 2019, but we never implemented the ordinance, and it got delayed because of COVID-19. And so this is getting everything up to snuff, so the fee schedule reflects what the board's wishes.
So can I ask one more question? So what is the tiers? How many tiers are there then? Well, there's a lot of tiers on my part, but how many tiers on the schedule?
If Therese would put that back up there, I believe there were 5 tiers, or let's see, 4, excuse me. So you got $200, $300, $400, and $500.
Okay.
And I think this better reflects the concerns of the very small, single, one-bedroom, or if, kind of like an efficiency cabin, that their income generation is not what these real large, multi-bedroom homes are.
Yes.
Any other questions? So we have a motion and a second. I would ask Therese to make the roll call, please.
Commissioner Franzine,
Aye.
Commissioner Coring,
Aye.
Commissioner Brecken,
Aye.
Commissioner Hoag,
Aye.
Commissioner Barrows.
Chair votes aye. Motion passes. Number 9, County Sheriff, Lieutenant Gallus, anything to say on behalf of the Sheriff's Department? Thank you very much. With that, we'll, County Attorney Ryan, I know, is tied up in court and is not here at this time, so I don't think he's on the
I don't see him.
meeting. So County Administrator Houle.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, yesterday there was a brief senior management team meeting, brief, of course, because of the holiday. I think, primary issue that we talked about yesterday was vaccinations, vaccination priorities. And as an employer, not only do we need to figure out vaccination priorities for within the community at large following the CDC and the MDH guidelines, but then we have to figure out how our own employees, some of whom would fall into the category of essential, geez, I hate that term, and some that do not. And so we are working on prioritization of our own employee groups as we move through. We've identified 4 different priority groups. And, obviously those who are first responders are towards the top of the list. There are people like me that I think can stay safe in other ways that are on the bottom of the list. And so moving through that list, it was a question of who has the most contact with the general public that we can't prevent, and or what kind of impact can we make in terms of reducing the risk of COVID in the community. The secondary one is why we're going into long-term care facilities, because it will have a big impact. And so that's true even to a much lesser extent, but it's also true within our employee population, which one's going to have the most impact. So we also talked about that. Brief discussion on budget, which is on your agenda next. So I'm happy to answer any questions about the senior management team meeting.
Any questions about the senior management team? Hearing none, we can move into the second item.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, this is a carryover item from our last meeting, and it was to give additional time to do some study and research. If there's any questions or concerns about the 2021 final budget and levy, the resolution for adoption is in your packet. Happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Any questions from the commissioners? Commissioner Coring, any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. No question.
With that, I would look for a motion to approve the resolution attached in the 2021 final budget and levy resolution.
I'll make that motion.
Commissioner Hoag makes the motion to approve.
I'll second.
Commissioner Brecken seconds the motion. Therese, if you would call the roll call, please.
Commissioner Coring,
Aye.
Commissioner Brecken,
Aye.
Commissioner Hoag,
Aye.
Commissioner Franzine,
Aye.
Commissioner Barrows.
Chair votes aye, motion passes. Thank you, everyone. Thank you to the staff and that for the hard work on the budget this year. It's been an interesting year in many respects, so they've really done a hard job of looking at what their budgets are and coming up with what I think is the wishes of the board. So, and apparently with a 5-0 vote, they met the requirements that we put forth. So thank you very much to everyone.
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Coring, go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, being that you made that comment, you said a 5-0 vote. Yes, it was a 5-0 vote. And yes, I voted for the budget. I don't know that all of us agree with everything in there. I certainly am adamantly opposed to the vacation rental portion. There's several other things in there that I am opposed to, but I probably agreed with 90% of it. And so in life, if you can get 90%, I guess that's pretty damn good. So, I just want you to be aware that I don't agree with everything in there, but I agree with a large portion of it, so I gave it a yes vote.
Thank you very much.
And, Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Franzine.
I'd have to agree with Commissioner Coring's comments, and that's why I didn't make the motion, because there were things that I still, I'm the one who called for the 2-week
Yep,
to
understood.
look it over, and I did ask a lot of questions, got a lot of things answered, but there were still things that
Very good.
bothered me.
All right. Thank you very much.
I think it raises a good point. A $95 million budget. If there's not something in there that you don't like, then you're not looking closely enough at it. There are things in there that I don't like too. And so I think the point that is being raised here is we don't always get everything we want in life, right? And I think to Commissioner Coring, the short-term rental, I think we know very well how you feel about that. And I appreciate the fact that, you fought the good fight on that issue, and so the question was asked, it was answered, here we are, right? And so I appreciate the fact that you can set aside the parsons that you don't like if there is an overwhelming amount that you can support. It's always going to be the case where you don't have something in here you don't like. I know it's true for me every year, so I presume it would be true for you as well.
Commissioner Coring, did you have anything to add?
I just want to say that, you know, Tim Hool is exactly right. You know, I mean, this board has our differences, you know. I think, you know, I could go through all of us. You know, Rosemary and I have had our fights, and Commissioner Hoag, but I think we vigorously support the things that we want to support, and I think once it's done, like I said, I still don't agree with the vacation rental, but you know what? That's the way it works. I wasn't happy with the way the election turned out, but you got to move on. That's the way this all works. So, but I appreciate all the county board members and working with them, and we're going to work together where we can, and then when we can't, we'll vigorously debate each other, and then when we leave that room, hopefully we're not don't have hatred towards each other.
Appreciate that very much. Thank you. We do have one item left on the agenda, which is the 5.13, the retainer agreement for legal services. Has Mr. Ryan joined?
I don't believe so, but I think that we have found the previous agreement, so I'm going to try to summarize it, and Tracy, correct me if I'm wrong. The previous agreement had an annual amount of $18,000. The current one is proposed at $20,000. That's about an 11% increase. I think it probably is a reflection of the fact that the retainer agreement has proven to be quite useful for staff. And especially as our staff is relatively new, we had a fairly new staff in environmental services. I think this agreement has been critically important for them to make sure that we do it right. Over the course of time, I would expect this agreement needs to go down in size as our staff acquires more experience and history and guidance on what the law is requiring us to do and how it changes. It should go down over time. I don't think we're quite there yet. The other change in the agreement that I would note is there is an hourly rate. Now, those services for hourly rates are only invoked if there is extra work outside of the scope of the contract. The scope of the contract is really to provide consultation advice for environmental services issues. So if we wanted to use Scott Anderson for, well, let's say a budget appeal, that would be outside the scope of the contract. And the hourly rates went from $185 an hour for the principals to $195, and for the associates from $185 to $195, correct?
195 to 205.
To 205.
For the main ones, yeah.
Okay, and
185 to 195 for the other ones.
okay, 195 to 205, and the 185s to 195. Those are the changes in the contract.
Mr. Chairman, I am present now. I apologize for being late if you have any questions of me.
Welcome, Attorney Ryan. Any questions for Attorney Ryan regarding the service contract?
I don't have any questions. I know that this is value to our, especially the Land Services Department, and I just more raising a flag of concern that we don't see 11% increases, annually on this, and hopefully at some point. I don't know if there's an explanation for that in his contract of what drove that increase or not, but just as we watch these and make sure that we don't see a trend over the next several years. I have nothing against the service, and I think it's value to the county, but just kind of watching over the cost of it.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Coring, go ahead.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I just want to say that here's another case where I wholeheartedly agree with Commissioner Hoag. I think we've got to keep an eye on these things. This winds up being 11% increase every year, I don't know if anybody's receiving an 11% increase out in the public and with their job. So I think it's just good to keep an eye on this stuff so it doesn't, I mean, if that's the case, maybe it'd be better off to hire another assistant attorney to handle this. Anyway, that's my thoughts.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any other thoughts, concerns, questions?
I can, Mr. Chair, if I may.
Go ahead.
I can let the county board know that I do keep track of that. I think that we are still receiving a very good value. The original contract 2 years ago was kind of an estimate, not knowing how much need there would be or how much demand there would be. When I spoke with Attorney Anderson, he just said, he did tell me that they were fielding more questions than had been anticipated originally. And though I would always entertain hiring another assistant county attorney to work in this area, I think this is still far below what it would cost us to put another attorney on staff. And so I think it is still a good value at this time. But I hear you, the commissioner's concerns, and I will make sure that I exercise due diligence accordingly. Thank you.
Thank you. With that, I would look for a motion to accept the retainer agreement for legal services.
I'll make that motion.
Commissioner Hoag makes the motion to approve.
I'll second.
Commissioner Brecken seconds the motion to approve. Therese, if you would call the roll call, please.
Commissioner Brecken?
Aye.
Commissioner Hoag?
Aye.
Commissioner Franzine?
Aye.
Commissioner Coring?
Aye.
Commissioner Barrows?
Chair votes aye. That motion passes. And with that, I would look for unless there's any other additional information at this time. Commissioner Coring, I think,
Mr. Chairman, I have just a couple things. One thing, I want to just say thanks to Therese. You know, it's the end of the year. You know, for her trying to manage all this teams and all the people that want to come in. I don't know how she does it. But you know, I'm getting the emails from Therese, and I see that some of us have our appointees that their terms are expiring. Mr. Chairman, if it would be okay with you, I would like to have Brad Arnold reappointed to the Natural Resources Advisory Committee for another term. His term expires. If you saw the email, there's a list of appointees. And then also, I'd like to have Ronnie Roscoe reappointed to the Transportation Advisory Committee for another term. If the chair could do that, it'd be much appreciated. And thank you.
I will make those appointments. Thank you, Commissioner. And I also had the one with Beth Passy from my district that I'm reappointing also. Are there any others currently?
I'll review my list.
I'm sorry.
I'll review the list.
Okay. Yeah, if you'll review them, January 5th at our organizational meeting, we would like to reappoint any of those or new ones if there's a desire for that. So thank you, Commissioner.
I'll have to.
Okay.
Oh, I was just going to say, I'll study it a little bit.
Okay. So with that, I would look for a motion to adjourn from the public meeting and a motion into our closed session.
Motion to go to closed session.
Commissioner Franzine makes a motion to go into closed session. Second by Commissioner Coring. Therese, if you would make the roll call, please.
Do we need to state that it's for labor negotiation strategy
Yes.
pursuant to Minnesota Statute 13D.03 subdivision 1B?
Thank you very much for adding that.
Commissioner Hoag?
Aye.
Commissioner Franzine?
Aye.
Commissioner Coring?
Aye.
Commissioner Brecken?
Aye.
Commissioner Barrows?
Chair votes aye. We will be in closed session as soon as we can get our technology
going.
organized.
Thank you.